if you read 8 of them in a row, you'll see he addresses the fact that he doesn't want his church to be deceived. He wants them to have good doctrine, and he doesn't want them to be ignorant. And we use that word ignorant like it's some kind of insult, but ignorant just means without knowledge. I'm ignorant about brain surgery. Don't know the first thing about brain surgery, heart transplants, any of that. I mean, Daryl does a lot of amazing building things I just know nothing about. Electricity, plumbing, there's just specialists in every category. Nobody can know anything about everything about everything. So let's dive in. And this little guy has a little short, so make sure I put him in a place that... All right, check 1, 2. All right, so here we are. Colossians 1. So this is kind of the heart of Colossians. It's a letter to the church in Colossus, and he's writing to believers. So whenever you're looking at Colossians, Ephesians, Galatians, he's writing to the church. He's not writing to unbelievers. These are people that are believers. Check 1, 2. Check back. All right, so let's do this. All right. All right. Check 1, 2. All right. Check 1, 2. All right. Better? No? Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. All right. So let's just kind of see how Paul talks to the church in Colossus. So again, whenever you're reading text, you got to ask who's the writer and who's you're writing to. So these letters are writing to churches, to believers. So if you, as you're trying to share your faith, trying to share a verse that's written to a believer, and you're trying to share it to an unbeliever, it may or may not apply to him. It has truth in it, and you can't go wrong sharing a Bible verse with anybody, but you always want to remember who you're talking to. For this reason, we also, since the day we heard of it, do not cease to pray for you and to ask that you may be filled with the knowledge of His will, which is what God wants for you, the knowledge of His will in all wisdom and spiritual understanding. Verse 10, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to Him, being fruitful in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of who? God. Not the knowledge of yourself. The world will say, know thyself. Heal thyself, physician. I heard that people taking that verse out of context. Jesus actually said that. But, there's a lot of false prophets, a lot of false teachers. Jesus said there will be. So He wants us to increase in the knowledge of God. So the way we do that, that's what theology is. It's the study of God. Right? So strengthened with all might, according to His glorious power, for all patience and long-suffering with joy, giving thanks to the Father who has qualified us to be partakers of the inheritance of the saints in the light. You can preach on every verse. 13, and He has delivered us from the power of darkness and conveyed us into the kingdom of the Son of His love. And then verse 14, in whom we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of sins. So this is leading up to verse 15, right? Who are we talking about here? Jesus, that sound like Jesus? The Son of His love, in whom we have redemption through His blood. That's the pronoun. Who's the His there? The pronoun. That's Jesus. The forgiveness of sins. Verse 15, He, because who are we talking about? Jesus, right? He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. I'm going to pause for a second right here. So, back to the Mormons, the way they justified it when I looked on their website this morning, I figured He's the firstborn over all creation. Satan was also created, so that's what made him equal or brothers, technically, as they say, that he was created just like Satan was created. However, we're gonna read how they're off. I can see how that idea can lead them astray, and that's what happened. They got led astray. So, firstborn over all creation. So, all creation is all creation. Like before anything was created, that's all, right? So the firstborn. For by Him, who are we talking about? Jesus. All things were created that are in heaven, that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created through Him and for Him. Verse 17, and He is before all things. All means all, and that's the word all means. Heard a preacher say that, so every time you see the word all, just remember all means all, and that's all the word all means. He is before all things, and in him all things consist. 17 is just powerful. 18, and he is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things he, who are we talking about? Jesus, that's the pronoun, common pronoun, he may have preeminence. Just a quick pause. Verse 17, and he is before all things, and in him all things consist. Lou Giglio, Passion Church, did a whole Great Is Our God, went on tour with Chris Tomlin. After his tour, he ran into a molecular scientist named, I forget the guy's name, but he came up to him after him and he said, you got to tell him about laminin, Louis, laminin. And if you have your phones, and I'm going to do this, you Google laminin. Give me that little guy, yeah, thanks. All right, good. Thanks, brother. All right. So laminin, L-A-M-A-N-I-N, is a cell adhesion molecule. Cell adhesion molecule.